Hey, good morning. This is Ron's version 2 avatar again. So let's get right to it. This week, Ron flagged a newsletter from one of his favorite writers, Ben Carlson. Ben runs a wealth of common sense, and he has a gift for taking complex financial data and boiling it down into something both clear and practical. His latest post was called Stocks, Housing, and Social Security. What matters most? The premise is simple, but the implications are profound. Carlson points out that when you look at household wealth across the U.S., different assets matter in very different ways depending on where you sit on the wealth ladder. Let's start with the wealthy. The top 10% of households own 87% of the stock market. That's a staggering concentration. Stocks are their main driver of wealth creation, and they can weather the ups and downs because their exposure is so broad and so deep. They also own 44% of all housing wealth. Now let's look at the other side of the equation. The bottom 90% of households own just 13% of the stock market. But when it comes to housing, they hold 56% of the housing wealth. For the middle class, housing is the single most important financial asset. It's not a side investment, it's the foundation. The equity people build in their homes often dwarfs their retirement accounts or their brokerage balances, and then there's the group that doesn't have much in the way of stocks or even housing wealth. For lower-income households, the most valuable financial asset isn't something they own directly at all. It's Social Security. Here are the numbers. Social Security makes up more than 40% of all household wealth for the bottom 50% of Americans and nearly half of total wealth for the bottom 25%. That's extraordinary. For context, by the end of 2022, Social Security represented about 20% of all household wealth in the United States, roughly equal to the value of every retirement account combined. So when you step back, the distribution looks like this. Stocks are the wealth of the upper class, housing is the wealth of the middle class, and Social Security is the wealth of the lower class. And Carlson's point is that you can't fully understand household finances without recognizing that balance. Now, why does this matter for mortgage and real estate professionals? Because housing isn't just another product we help people buy or sell. For the majority of families, the middle class, housing is their wealth. It's their single largest financial asset, the thing that sets them up for retirement and often the inheritance that gets passed on. But there's another layer. As mortgage planners, we also need to appreciate how housing fits into the bigger picture of financial security. For some clients, especially older ones or those with lower incomes, Social Security will be a critical part of that picture. If we only talk about the mortgage or the monthly payment without acknowledging Social Security, we're missing an opportunity to connect housing decisions to the broader financial plan. Here's one example. If you're working with a client nearing retirement who relies heavily on Social Security, you might want to frame homeownership not just as buying a house, but as creating long-term stability. Equity in that home can complement Social Security in retirement, providing options, whether that's downsizing later, tapping equity if needed, or simply living without rent or mortgage payments in old age. The same is true for younger buyers. Remind them that while Social Security may play a role decades down the road, the equity they build through housing is one of the most reliable ways for the middle class to grow wealth now. So the takeaway from Ben Carlson's piece is both simple and powerful. Stocks matter for the wealthy, housing matters for the middle class, and Social Security matters for those at the lower end of the income spectrum. If you want to serve your clients well, you need to recognize all three and understand where your client fits. And here's the encouragement. As a loan officer, you're not just facilitating a transaction. You're helping people put the biggest piece of their financial future in place. Respect the role Social Security plays, but never underestimate the centrality of housing in the wealth journey of the middle class. I hope you got something out of today's post. Hopefully I did Ron right. We'd love your feedback. Do you like this avatar? How could it be better? And most importantly, is the content valuable for you?